to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Begin the meeting with a moment of silence. This meeting is being recorded and televised by the local cable company. I'd like a motion for the approval of bill and payroll warrants.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Like a motion to accept correspondence in the read file.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public forum. Now is the time for anyone to speak who wants to speak on something that's not on the agenda. Hasn't quite reached 7:05. So Frank, you want to talk about the bid for cleaning services?
Yes. Due to the performance of the company that was providing our services, we found it necessary to seek alternate bids and not continue to work with them. The end result was we received 3 bids which were wildly apart. The lowest responsible bidder, I'm just digging through what I had earlier today for that, is going to be for slightly over 5,000 over our appropriation this year. We're okay for the year, but year 2 and 3, if we choose to extend those years, will require a increase in appropriation. And I'm only bringing it to the board because if the bid that we accepted now were retroactive to July 1st, it would have exceeded our appropriation by $1,000. We are currently employing our town hall custodian to maintain the other buildings until November 1st, when the new company will start. And at that point, SJ Services, which is currently providing cleaning and maintenance services for the Whitman Regional School District, will begin doing our buildings as well. It doesn't require any action by the board. I just wanted you to be aware of the changes.
Does anyone have any questions or observations? Okay. Scott, you want to give a report on the
Sure.
the meeting you just had?
Fairly brief, yeah. That was our second meeting. We presented a draft set of policies that we pilfered from another town, a wonderful town, south of us. So we reviewed them. There will be some, obviously, tweaks that we have to put to it to make it work with our current situation, and we're going to look at them again after Frank and I and a few of the staff look at it and present it to this board and to that committee again. We also went over a few other issues as far as the budget goes and calendars and meetings between the finance committee, this committee, the school committees, and also with department heads. So.
Okay. Will you have a schedule?
That was kind of our next thing. As I talked to FinCom, they're going to look at it and we'll put a schedule together so
Okay.
everybody will know what's going on.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of Scott? And your next meeting is going to be?
We're going to wait till we get the update on the policy, the fiscal policy, and we've had a chance, for Frank and I to spend some time, and the accountant and everybody else to spend some time on it, and then when it's done, we'll get the group together. But, we'll get that message out there to everybody in advance.
Okay. Frank, you want to give an update on the community assessment survey?
Yes, we received a email from Dr. Tarsi. The preparation for the survey is pretty much complete, and they're ready to start sending them out. They'll be mailing surveys. They'll be providing a website for which people can respond to surveys. And they've had an opportunity to update information. I believe the superintendent also had an opportunity to get to Melinda to update his questions. So we should start receiving responses within a couple of weeks.
Okay, I think we were supposed to see a final draft.
Yeah, I emailed her on that yesterday. I haven't heard back from her yet.
Okay, because we haven't seen the final draft yet.
No, but I'm pretty sure we know what it
Right.
looks like. But
Right.
yes, we still need to see a final draft.
Anyone have any questions of Frank? Okay, it's reached 7:05, joint meeting with the planning board for the purpose of interviewing the following candidates for interim appointment in order to fill 2 vacancies on the planning board. Mr. Jerry Blumenthal and Mr. Adam Somerville, and both of you are here. Okay, Mr. Jerry, yes, you are, okay. Eric, would you like to begin your part of the meeting?
Yeah, I would like to, first and foremost, thank everybody who has shown interest in this position. And with that being said, we're looking for 2, and we have 4 candidates. So we have our full member of board, 4 members right now, to hear the interviews, ask questions, and work with you guys to move forward for selecting 2 candidates for tonight.
Okay, we'll be selecting 2 candidates. Would you,
I would believe so, yeah, because we have the 2 vacancies we have to
Right.
fill. And, you know, just because we select 2 people, we'll hang on to 2 resumes. If it doesn't work out for somebody, if they have personal issues and they can't fulfill their obligation, you know, we would reach back out to other candidates who would be next best, or other applicants who come forward afterwards.
would the planning board like to make a recommendation? Would you like to meet, like, after we hear from the 2 people? We will have heard from 4 people then? And then would you like to meet and come up with a recommendation from the planning
We're
board?
ready to basically vote on
Yeah.
when we hear what we don't want to do is take another week
Right,
and
exactly.
drag it out, because we've got business we need to conduct, and we need to take care of this. Last week, I was out, so if we did have a meeting last week, we wouldn't have been able to have a meeting last week, so things happen, and short notice for my work really gets to be a problem at times. So the sooner that we can take care of this, I think would be better. So at the end of our interviews, I think we could have a vote as to who we would recommend.
Okay.
And individual votes rather than
Rather
us all talking about it, and, you
Rather
know,
than a
because
committee
it's
Okay, all right,
independent voting on that. And same for yourselves.
okay. Okay, first up would be Jerry Blumenthal. Jerry? We have the same problem with the mic we had the last time, Frank?
Yes. How long that is. Certainly bring you closer to the group. It's all yours.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be
Good
here
evening,
tonight to
Jerry.
answer any questions you may have.
Would you like to make a statement?
I have a lot of years of experience as a civil engineer working on primarily transportation projects for our municipalities, for state DOT, and also some 20 years experience working on site design projects for state facilities and private, primarily colleges and universities as well. I did retire from that profession 3 years ago as a civil engineer. I was a registered civil engineer. I have been working the last 3 years as a resident engineer for the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance. And I've decided to, at the end of next week, I'm retired. As I said, I think I have a lot of experience. I'd like to put it to some good use. And if I could do that to help the town, I was made aware that there was a position opening and applied for it. And if I can help the town out or in any way, I'd be happy to, and all the better.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Mr. Blumenthal, just a couple of questions, same as I asked the other applicants. Over the years, you've served on two committees, the Finance Committee and the School Building Committee, is that right?
That's correct.
On your resume, it's quite a resume.
Thank you.
Is most of your experience in commercial buildings, projects, or do you have any experience on residential properties, things like that, housing development?
Very little, but I've been, like I said, transportation design of roadways, which gets into subdivisions. So most of it, design of roadways for municipalities and the State Department of Transportation. Not residential per se, although we've done some, I've done some, let's say, development of housing complexes for lower middle-income housing development. Been in front of boards my whole career, very familiar with the process, but not an awful lot of residential
Okay.
developments.
All right, thank you very much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else like to ask any questions? Mr. Blumenthal, position's a voluntary position.
Yes.
Having background is helpful. Mine is electrical, so it doesn't really pertain to housing developments. But, you know, the ability to be able to read plans is helpful. You said you were going to be retiring?
And the
You
next
haven't
week,
told anybody yet, have you?
where I work,
Okay,
yes,
the
I
way you
have.
say it, okay, all right.
Oh, of course I
I thought you were
have.
going to surprise them.
No, no, no.
The way you said it, I'm sorry.
They
Okay.
are well aware.
With that, is your time going to be available to be able to be on the board? I mean, what we're really looking for is a full board so that people can take vacations, take business trips or whatever. So that, like I indicated earlier, I was out all last week. If we needed to have a meeting, it wasn't going to happen. So being able to have a full board is very important. So I want to make sure that, you know, something like that is something that you're aware and you're interested in.
Absolutely.
And one of the questions that was asked to other applicants a couple weeks ago was your intentions because once this position is filled, come next election, you would have to put your name on the ballot to be voted in. I don't need to know an answer there because it's kind of unfair because you need to get a sense of the board. You may get into it, love it, and want to do it. You may get into it and not like it at all, and we could be having this conversation again. So I just wanted to get that sense, you know, where you said you're retiring, but still, you're going to be interested in serving on the board.
I wouldn't be here or I wouldn't have applied for the position if I wasn't going to perform the job as needed
Okay.
and hopefully meet all your expectations of what's required of the job. I will reserve, like you say, as to what's going to happen when this temporary position's up, because I'm not
Yeah, I mean,
sure how it's going to
it's
go.
too early to be able to make that decision.
I mean,
and I appreciate that.
Sometime early in my career, I did once take out papers to be on the planning board many years ago, and I found kind of prostituting myself in front of the post office to get signatures was not for me at the time.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you. Do you have any further comments you'd like to make, or?
Can I just ask,
Yeah.
maybe it's a little late, but how many times a month do you meet?
We meet generally 2 times a month. In the summertime, where we don't have a lot of business, we skip months at times, so that we're not really, you know, tying up the entire summer, because people do take vacations in the summertime, especially where we're a smaller board at the moment. You know, so we have some time where we take off. But if there were any pressing matters or pressing bills that needed to be attended to, we would post a meeting and we'd call it and have it, just so that we could do it. And I don't think we've done that too often. I think
Yeah.
maybe once,
Yeah, maybe.
maybe once we
Yeah.
had to do that. So, yeah, it's second and fourth Tuesday of every month. We typically meet at 7:30. Mary's in the clerk's office until 7:30. She comes down and then we start our business at 7:30. We try to get out at 9, it never works, but we try. So we
mean-
have good intentions. Tonight we roll out.
8 o'clock.
8 or
mean-
9.
Red Sox.
2 days out of 30 isn't very much. Obviously, the more time-consuming is the review of the submittals.
Yeah, I mean, when we do meet 2 times a week, 2 times a month, it's not a lot of time, but what I find is with my work schedule and the incentive places, it always correlates that it always falls on those meeting nights. So a lot of times that becomes an issue on my end. Again, that's why we need to have a full board.
Since I won't have a work schedule
That'd be
after
good.
next week, other than interfering with my projects around the house, it should be good.
All right, excellent. Anybody else have any?
Yeah, I have something. I've known Jerry. I was the chairman of the finance committee when Jerry was on. And because of his knowledge, we appointed him to be a representative of the finance committee to the building committee for the high school. And he was able to come back to us and give us reports on a regular basis when we met on how the project was going. He did a very good job. And he was very effective as far as coming to the meetings. He never missed a meeting. But that was, God, what, 15 years ago? Whatever, 16
At
years ago.
least,
So
yeah.
I assume that his way of doing things hasn't changed since then. Maybe a little bit matured as we get older. But no, he did a good job on the finance committee, so I thought he did. That's all I have to say.
Appreciate that.
Anyone else? Okay,
Thank you for your consideration.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Somerville, Adam Somerville.
Good evening.
Do you have a chance to make an opening statement?
I wasn't really prepared for this, but I don't have any engineering experience, but I spent the last 25 years for a sub for the gas company. So everything I have is underground utilities for water, electric, gas. Before that, my father was a builder, so doing planned takeoffs and building houses with him before high school. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Questions?
Wait, what's that?
Yes. This would be your first time volunteering for the town board? is that right?
Yes.
Looking at your resume, you had a period of about 8 years back around 97 to 04 or 07. You owned your own construction company?
Yes.
And what kind of, was it commercial buildings?
It was all residential. A friend of mine had a painting company in Medfield, and I worked for myself, just building decks, sheds, and just replacing trim boards, rake boards on houses prior to painting and stuff like that. It was just out of high school.
So you didn't actually build any houses? Or
Oh yeah, before I even got into high school, I started with my father when I was 12, building houses. I built about 2 dozen from the foundation to the roof, interior and out.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Anyone else have any questions?
I'll go over some of the similar questions that I asked
No
Mr.
problem.
Blumenthal. You're not retiring, so
No.
I can't ask you that one, but how demanding is your line of work? Does it keep you late a lot, or,
I could be.
and that's not a decision?
Nope, that's
factor, I'm
fine.
just-
As long as I know a couple of days ahead of time, I can be anywhere, anytime.
Okay.
You know, my schedule, I do about 80 hours a week as it is right now.
Mhm.
You know, but I can be anywhere, anytime I need to be.
Okay. So as I mentioned, we meet the second and fourth Tuesday of every month.
No problem at all.
7:30 at night.
Yep,
Let's see, so you're in the construction field, so you've got a lot of underground experience as far as the actual installation, reading plans.
absolutely.
You said electric, water, gas?
Mostly gas.
Okay.
You know, laying out I would take the street
Not on the North
plans.
Shore, is it?
Actually, I've been in Lawrence for the last, my company is actually the company that found the overpressurization.
Okay,
So,
Okay.
we've been up there. I started Sunday night at 8 o'clock, I just finished 4 o'clock this afternoon.
wow.
Is the guy.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so, a lot of what we do, we bring in volunteers to be able to do these positions. A lot of people don't tend to have technical background, engineering or construction for that matter. So, we rely heavily on our engineering. We hire an engineer to do a lot of the reviews that we have, and they bring recommendations to us, so.
Sure.
So we review that and then we make decisions. A lot of times, we may have feelings about what's going in a neighborhood and we can't really make any decisions by that. We have to read the letter of the law and follow that so that it meets the requirements of the DPW for the streets. So I just want to, let you and Mr. Blumenthal know that, as they have, I think, in the previous applicants as well. But I think that's all I have for questions, unless you have any other comments or if the board has any other questions.
No, I'm all set.
Does anyone else on the board have anything they want to ask? Mr. Somerville? No. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, over the last couple of weeks, we've interviewed 4 people then. Elaine Bergeron, Adele Carey, or Carew or Carey? Carew. And Mr. Somerville and Mr. Blumenthal. Do we want to place all names in nomination and vote on them, or do you guys want to talk about it first amongst yourselves, or what would you like to do? It's your board.
Do you guys feel comfortable with voting? Well, we can state names and then, how would we want to do it? State a name and then vote for that? Or make a motion for a candidate or 2 candidates?
Suggestion, we have multiple candidates, might be to place all in nomination and see who gets the top votes.
Top 2 vote.
Top 2.
Top 2 votes. That was what I was kind of suggesting.
Okay.
That we place them all in nomination, and if you're ready to vote, and if you people are ready to name 2 people?
Do it in the
Okay.
order that they were interviewed.
We could do that, yeah, exactly the order they were interviewed.
Okay, then why don't we just, I'm not exactly sure how to do this.
Roll call the name, and then we raise our hand if we vote for him or not.
Yeah, that'll be good. Then Elaine, those in favor of Elaine Bergeron? Okay, so that would be 4. Okay, and in favor of Adele Carew? In favor of Jerry Blumenthal? And Adam Somerville?
How many were there?
You've been counting, all right.
I didn't catch them all. How many do we have?
We have
You got 4, 3?
Adam Somerville has 7 votes.
7? Okay.
So
Seven?
number 1, and then you have a tie for Elaine Bergeron and Jerry Blumenthal.
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we place those 2 names in nomination and then do the same thing again?
Okay.
Okay. So we're only voting for either Elaine Bergeron or Jerry Blumenthal?
Jerry.
All those in favor of Elaine Bergeron? All those in favor of Jerry Blumenthal?
6-3.
Pardon me? 6-3?
6 to Elaine, 3 to Jerry.
Okay, so the two new members will be Elaine Bergeron and Adam Somerville.
Okay. Perfect. I want to thank all the candidates, and difficult decision because everybody has qualifications that we can utilize. Right now we just have the 2 positions, so if a member does not want to stay on the board for whatever particular reason, we'll reach back out. If that candidate who's still available is willing to participate, we can nominate.
And
we
anyone
take it from there.
maybe pull out papers and run.
Right.
What, pull out papers and run, yeah.
Can they be sworn in tonight, or do they have to wait until the...
No, they need to receive a appointment card,
Yep.
which has to be prepared and submitted to the clerk along with a certification of the vote. I would just emphasize for everyone's benefit that this combined board only has the authority to appoint to the next election. So it's clear that the appointment expires on, I believe, May 18th.
Whatever the election date,
Yes.
my term ends that day.
Right.
Would they be able to get sworn in so that we can have them on the board for the next meeting?
Yes.
Should be, yeah. Because you got to sign
I mean-
the card and then they get sworn in.
Yeah, the clerk requires a certified, a vote of the consolidated board and an appointment card. So those are both necessary to
Well,
administer the oath of office, unless
we have the cards here.
we want to see if the clerk would like to come up and swear them in now.
If she's willing to, and
Shall we sign the card?
Yeah.
I'm not home.
Maybe that's the clerk.
Okay, so that's
No.
Adam something.
my credit card is not in trouble, but they
No.
want to call me.
Adam Sandler.
Give me finance.
Yep,
Adam.
89 Birch Road.
Yeah. There's one about vacations too.
Yeah. You want to
Mm. Always that pause when you answer it, you know, it's a robocall. Or it's a head.
But they had 2 cards, you just
Hey, Michael, is Dawn available?
Did you not want to sign this?
Oh, yes. Sure.
I don't know if she could swear in.
She's employee of the board, so yeah.
Now, does the planning board have to sign to it?
Controversy out there.
I don't know. That's a
Neither
good
do I.
question. Where the appointment.
Oh, isn't there, who's the assistant? Who's the assistant? Can't she swear him in?
I don't know if that's a procedural.
Can't the assistant clerk
The
swear him in?
assistant town clerk is over there.
Assistant clerk?
Sure, why not?
Right, she's the secretary, but
Yeah.
Hey there. The planning board has requested that you come up and administer the oath of office to the 2 people elected at this meeting.
Sure, I'll put it on us.
I have them right here. Okay. Thank you. In the meeting room. She will be right up.
Does the planning board need to sign off on that too?
No, she just needs a certification of a vote of appointment. It wouldn't hurt if they signed it. They'd certainly
it's not that many lines.
participate in the vote.
Get their names.
She'll accept the card. Signature of the board.
Okay, well, that's all we need to do then. So actually, we could just
As
give
long
them,
as we have 5 signatures on it.
yeah, we do. And we could actually give these cards to,
Because she'll have to
people, right?
put the stamp on them. Does she have to seal them? So,
Yeah, she'll sign it and use the town seal.
and then they can, you have a meeting right after this, right? They can
Yes, we do.
go right with you, right downstairs.
How convenient.
Knew there was a method to the
Yeah.
Secretary, please. Oh,
well, while we're waiting, on the liaison reports, I'm going to ask the fire chief to deliver the liaison report, because he would like to announce a grant.
Yes.
And also, he has a response to the National Grid issue that has been popular lately on social media.
No, you need it.
He's gonna bring this one.
Oh, okay. Thank you kindly.
Sorry. You're the best. That's great. Thank you. We have some more good news this evening. As you know, with time things break down and start to fall apart. The fire department, when it gets into public safety, the fire and police department's communication systems are pretty much their lifeline
for all the firefighters and police officers that are out in the street. Last year, the police chief, myself, the IT director, and Frank sat down looking at replacing the infrastructure for both of our systems, because mine is 11 years old, has been failing at alarming rates, and it's not cheap to fix. It's a microwave system, which is all technology-based. The police department system has dead spots where the like officers like in the field have trouble talking back. So last year we jointly presented an article to FinCom. It was somewhere in the area of $300,000 to replace the public safety radio systems and have a public safety radio network. There just wasn't funding for it last year. We've been looking at like different options. This year the state's CIC grant came forward, and I'll defer to our IT director, Josh McNeil. It was down his alley that he reached out to us and said, hey, what do you think? We spoke with Frank, and Josh did all the legwork, so I'll let Josh make the announcement.
So, good evening. I just wanted to give you a brief synopsis of exactly what grant opportunity it was. So we applied for the Community Compact IT grant, which basically provides $2 million to eligible communities, with a total cap of $200,000 per project, basically. And this year, I want to say there was 44 communities that were awarded grant funding. Out of those 44, Whitman received the highest amount of money, followed by, I think, Waltham, and then 42 other communities. I think the biggest thing that I wanted to get out of this is the fact that we're always looking for ways that we can do better and provide, what we can for the community at little or no cost, and this is a great example. Basically, we were able to sustain $200,000 and fund this project, and although it wasn't the $300,000 that we had initially had hoped for, there's a small piece of that project that we'd still like to do, a few years from now if it's possible, which would be to relocate some equipment. But the whole idea behind this was basically to come up with a reliable public safety radio communication system that, in addition to provides full coverage in the Whitman Middle School and in the Whitman-Hanson Regional High School. Those two buildings have some deficiencies that are problematic, and unfortunately the public safety, when they're trying to communicate, most likely receiving communication in those buildings is very difficult at times and has interrupted communication on a number of different incidents. So this new communication system will hopefully provide, at least 10, hopefully more years of dependable coverage for both the police and the fire, as well as put the police department on the better interoperability as far as being able to communicate with many of the departments in the area that are now transitioning to more of a digital radio communication system. I know East Bridgewater recently made the transition. Holbrook made the transition recently. So we're just sort of happy we're able to move forward here and build a more reliable communication system for public safety.
Thank you very much, Joe. Chief, before you go into the National Grid thing, if we could
Absolutely.
let the town clerk swear in Elaine Bergeron and Adam Somerville, so that they don't have to.
By the planning board, and we get to that meeting.
Want to come on up? Want to go on TV or? Whatever you want.
Come on up.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, you can both, we'll do it one shot. And then afterwards, I'll meet you over there and I'll sign the process. You're going to raise your right hands, please, and you're going to repeat after me, and you're going to fill in the blanks. I state your name.
I, Adam Somerville,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge all the duties incumbent on me
discharge all the duties incumbent on me
as a planning board member
as a planning board member
according to the best of my ability and understanding,
according to the best of my ability and understanding,
agreeably to the rules and the regulations
agreeably to the rules and regulations
and the Constitution of the laws of the Commonwealth,
and the constitutions of the laws of the Commonwealth,
and under the rules and regulations
and under the rules and regulations
of the town bylaws,
of the town bylaws,
made under authority thereof,
authority thereof,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you. All right, now meet you right over there.
Thank you.
Okay. You guys are all set.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Dawn, do you have your...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can give him the, you can get that later. That's not-
It's a working man.
Guys, you're working.
Nice to see that we have so many volunteers looking to get into something.
You ready, Chief? Give us the lowdown on the National Grid.
So I know that there was some hype at the end of last week, or I think it was the beginning of this week, maybe on social media, as it relates to the intersections of routes 18 and 14. There was some post on social media regarding a grade 1 leak up there, and the world was caving in, and this and that. I can tell you that there was a grade 1 leak at that intersection at one point back in September. We've responded up there for odors of gas in the past. The gas company, National Grid, they did respond out. They deemed it a grade 1 leak. They had crews there that evening. The system and that grade 1 leak was repaired in the overnight hours that night. We've had 2 or 3, off the top of my head, grade 1 leaks since the lockout has started. We haven't noticed much of anything response times. There's been a little bit longer like response times on different like odors and smells, but on the grade 1 leaks that we have had, they've been right out, they've fixed them, and they've cleared the scene with no issues. So, you know, it's a tough time right now. Both Columbia Gas and National Grid have a moratorium against them. National Grid is in a lockout right now. It's been going on, I think they're starting their 4th month. It's not pretty out there in the gas world. But as far as this town goes, whatever leaks that we have had, which were grade 1 leaks, have been handled in a timely fashion and taken care of.
Does anyone have any questions of the Chief?
Yeah, I'd like to just say thank you for the notification that you sent us, at least, you know, I know the whole board got it, on squashing that, so that if anyone asks us, we could tell them, no,
Yep.
we've been taken care of, and that, I want to thank you for sending that info out
You're
real
welcome.
soon.
You're welcome. Keep you informed.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And that completes my liaison report. Under policies and procedures, it says NA. Scott had sent an email this week, and I want to acknowledge it and make sure that at the next meeting we have a couple of things on the agenda. We haven't had any operational updates from the 2 police chiefs for a while, 2 chiefs for a while, the fire chief and the police chief. So at the next meeting, if we could have that on the agenda. And also, the matter of vacation time carryover seems to be getting kicked down the road, according to Scott, and I think he's right. I'd like this to, in the appropriate way, to get that back on the docket. Under new business, act on the resignation of Nita Salt from the position of member of the Whitman Cultural Council, effective September 26, 2018.
So moved?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act to declare scrap water meters as surplus materials and authorize the CPO to dispose of surplus materials by public auction.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion?
Quite a few. 2 trailers worth.
Okay. Wow. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of Town Clerk Don Varley to sign the warrant for the November 6, 2018 state election.
So moved?
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Does that mean that the people who voted early, their votes are null and void because
There you go.
certified the warrant yet?
No, because the state certified the warrant initially. I think our certification generally applies to local ballot questions, but I don't think we have any local ballot questions.
That brings up another question, but I won't bother asking.
Good.
Act on the resignation of Dominic Cousineau from the position of member of the Council on Aging, effective October 10th, 2018.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Accept a gift from the Whitman VFW, Post 697, of the use of the lower function hall on Thursday, December 13th, 2018, from 4 to 7 p.m.
So moved?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That exhausts new business, no old business. We need to go into executive session in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, Exception 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining.
1 second, Carl.
Regarding the chief's reports at the next meeting,
Yes?
they would have to have the interview by Wednesday.
Okay.
That would give them enough time to get them done.
That's right, because we have a meeting in a week.
Well, you want to...
Chiefs, why don't we do that at the meeting after next, then?
Which will probably be mid-November.
Yeah,
for January.
okay, we'll adjust that. Good, thanks, Laurie. Okay, vote to go into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation?
Yes.
Yeah, in your motion?
Yes.
Most,
Yes.
second.
Moved and seconded?
Yes.
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 Okay. We'll come back into open session only to adjourn.